Hello and welcome back to the Doctor's Garage. So, even after a year of making that video called Why I Hate My Discovery 5 that over 50,000 of you saw here on YouTube, I'm here a year later telling you why actually I still hate it. And the reason for that is I've had two more major issues that have occurred in this car. It's still under 50,000 miles. Two more big issues, one of them being a well-known issue with Discovery 5s. But first, let me tell you a bit more about my journey with my Discovery 5. What's happened with the Discovery 5 HC Luxury that I'm sat in at the moment. So I bought this car with 20,000 miles on the clock at about 9 months old from Land Rover Management. Great car, always wanted Discovery 5. It is still, I still defend the fact there's not a better 7-seater car on the roads for space, for comfort, for off-road ability and all that. I still think Discovery 5 is the ultimate car. However, when I bought the car, it was all good for about a year. Slowly, faults started creeping in. We had an oil leak from underneath the car. I can't remember exactly where it was. We had an air suspension leak in the rear of the boot. And then, the worst of all, we had an engine failure. So this is the SD4, the 2-litre engine from Land Rover, 2018 model. So notorious for having a few issues. And somehow ended up getting a cracked engine block, but it was a long story, and the Land Rover dealer we were with at the time said, oh, you've put petrol in it rather than diesel. Had to argue that for a while, spoke to BP, and it was a bit of a long story. But overall, I hadn't put petrol in it. It was actually an engine fault that happened and somehow cracked the engine block, which I still don't know how. But anyway, got the engine replaced under warranty, thankfully, because it was just getting towards that 3-year mark. And then there was one other thing, which was the battery went dead. Apparently another fault that can happen with Discovery 5s. The battery kind of just expires. That was just before 3 years. So that was that. And actually I felt that they were the big problems over with, and now I can enjoy the car. I was enjoying the 2-litre engine because the economy was so good in it. And actually, overall, really happy with the car and thought, that's it, we're all good now. And as a result, just to be cautious, as it passed that 3-year mark, I took out the Land Rover approved warranty, which is about £900 a year. And that warranty, I was thinking, should cover me for everything. It seems like it didn't, and I'll tell you that story in a minute with some of the new issues I've been having, but it should cover everything that's going to happen from a manufacturing point of view. I accept it's not going to cover wear and tear and all those sorts of things, but I thought on the whole, it's going to cover most of the things that I would be worrying about with this car, like the turbos and a few other bits that I've heard that can go alongside with the engine. So it's been really good for about a year. I've had no problems, really enjoyed the car. You know, we're sitting on now 47,600 miles in it, and it's just past being 4 years old. Recently have it serviced, and that's kind of where the problems have started. So on the service, they discovered the near side suspension ball arm joint is worn out. And so actually now you get this kind of weird rattling from the front left, and essentially it needs a new suspension arm. Now, I'm not sure, I've spoken to a lot of people about this, and I've heard the suspension arm shouldn't run out at 47,000 miles, and you should get more closer to 80 to 100,000 miles. So a bit disappointed in that, and that's something I spoke to Land Rover about and said, look, we've got a problem, going to bring it into you guys, can have a look at it. Quite disappointed in that, and hopefully that's going to be a warrantyable issue because it shouldn't have run out as quick as it has. The other thing, which is the most frustrating thing of all, is finally it's caught up with me, this problem that I hear about all the time on the forums. Whenever you guys have commented here on YouTube, you always say, have you had it yet? I can't believe you haven't had that problem yet. And that is the leaking windscreen. Now, it was only about a week ago, I started to notice some moisture on the inside of the driver's side windshield. A couple of drops of water, and I was like, that's weird. Why is it there? Like, I didn't really think about it to start with. And the more I drove it, when I braked heavily, I saw water running down the inside of the windscreen, which is a nightmare because I thought I somehow had avoided that problem. And unfortunately, it's caught up with me at 4 years. The windscreen has faltered. Now, I know in Discovery 5s, particularly from this model year, 2017-18, probably even newer, there's been so many problems with windscreens leaking and sunroofs leaking too. I'd be really interested if you've had that same problem with your Discovery or any other model in the Land Rover range. Drop me a comment below. Let me know if you've had that same issue. So anyway, I called Land Rover, a local dealer, and said, look, I've got this problem. I know it's a known problem. I know this is almost like a recall action on these vehicles because so many people have had it when you look online. They said, this isn't going to be covered. This is not a warranty issue. This isn't covered under your approved warranty because it's like a windscreen or like an exterior defect, which I was quite surprised to hear considering this is such it's probably the most common problem with Discoveries in general is the windscreen leaking. So anyway, they said, well, maybe Land Rover, as a gesture of goodwill, might be able to contribute towards the repair. I'm more hoping they'll pay for it, to be honest, with how many I've read online and how many people I know that have had this same problem with their Discoveries. So I'm going to keep you updated with that journey as I go through that with Land Rover. I've booked into the dealership, but it's not until 2 weeks. And if you live here in the UK, you'll know we've had this massive storm recently and it's raining a lot. And so I'm quite worried about that because online, I've seen people don't just have a windscreen leak, they also have it leaking into the pillar airbag, into the electronics and all that as well. So I'm going to call Land Rover today and tell them about this problem that I've had with the windshield and the leaking, wherever it's coming from, whether it's sunroof or windscreen. And hopefully someone will be able to see me a bit sooner than 2 weeks, because the damage is going to get worse if it's not sorted out. In the meanwhile, I'm going to try and stop it getting worse by taping all around the seals around the windscreen, just so it can't get into the airbag and it can't get into the dash as well. It is getting a bit worse, I've noticed, in the last day or so, but I don't really have any other option. I can't get seen by my local dealer. I'm going to call Land Rover, see what they say, and also argue the case that this is a problem with this model vehicle and not just a general wear and tear problem that the sort of warranty that I've paid £900 a year for are saying is not covered, the same as that suspension arm. And so on this channel, I'm going to keep you updated, let you know how I go on my journey with this car. Any help or suggestions would be much appreciated, so please leave them in the comments below. So let me take you outside, let me show you the problem on my windscreen and what I'm going to do to try and at least hold it back for now until I can get seen by Land Rover. So this is outside the car, and as you can see, when I clean the windscreen, these drips are all inside of my window, which looks absolutely terrible. And that actually is all the way up there as well. These drips are all inside my windscreen. So not a good look for the car, and I'm just wiping it down now to then try and stick some sort of a seal up the sides, but also on the top. Now I'm not sure if it is leaking from, I imagine it's somewhere up here, but it could be the sunroof seam, I don't really know. So I'm just going to try and sort of stick something over all of that to try and at least stop this happening and going inside and potentially damaging the interior of my car. So this is what I'm going to be using, a bit of Gorilla Tape between the body of the car and the windscreen over those seals, and hopefully that'll hold it at bay at least until I can get seen in the dealership and just stop it from getting worse, really, because the last thing I want it to do is damage to the interior, to the electronics. I can only see what I can see on the windscreen, but I don't know what's going on beneath that if there is a bit more leaking. So that is that job done. Unfortunately, there's another drop just running on the inside there somewhere, but I've sealed that as much as I can. So follow my journey with Land Rover and getting this sorted out. Let's see what they say when they see the car and if there's anything they're going to suggest to help fix it. And I'm interested to see what they say about this problem because I've seen so many people online suffering from it. If you've had the same problem or any of these problems, let me know in the comments below. Give me a comment. Be interesting to hear from you and how your experience was and what happened. What did you do with the windscreen? What happened to your suspension arm if you've had any of those issues? Keep tuned to the channel, subscribe, and catch me in the next video where we'll do an update about what's happened with my Discovery 5.